Welcome to the Garage Network podcast. Join us and the occasional special guest as we discuss everything automotive, from fixing cars as a technician, owning an automotive workshop or business, overall work-life balance, and even the occasional laugh. Data sharing is now a law. We are joined by Stuart Charity from the AAAA to discuss ASSRA's involvement in the access to manufacturer portals and how it'll all work. Hope you guys find this helpful.
Hey guys, how are
Good morning,
you?
gentlemen.
Hope everyone's having a good Friday. Foster, Stuart, we have Stuart Charity, the CEO of the AAAA. And he's going to do a presentation for us this morning on the mandatory data sharing scheme and ASSRA, really, and its purpose. So I guess I'll hand over. Well, say hello first, I suppose. Please. How is everyone? Good morning.
Good morning. Very well. How are you guys going? Stuart, Mike?
Going very well. Thanks, Costa and Mike, for having me on this morning. It's a pretty historic day.
Big day.
Yes, it is.
Huge day. I'm pretty sure Mike was running around in his backyard at 4 a.m. I got an alert from police that a lot of noise complaint, yeah.
Only taken 10 years.
Excellent. So did you want me to kick off?
Yeah,
Big gaffer, mate. The ball's in your court.
No problem. So, look, thanks for having me on this morning. As I said, it's a historic day. This is day one of the mandatory data sharing scheme that we've, as an industry, fought for 10 years. So, what I wanted to do this morning was just do a bit of a quick run through on how it's all going to work, and I think you're going to fire a few questions at me. I know there was a fair bit of activity on social media and networks over the last couple of days, so we're happy to address all those questions. Just before I do, though, I think I'm right in saying that this webinar is going to be available very widely, so certainly beyond TGN. The other thing to say is that I'm here today representing the AAAA as one of the key protagonists in this issue, but ASSRA, which is the organisation that's set up to administer the scheme, will be doing a whole lot of communication materials over the next couple of weeks, and we'll be putting those out. So there'll be plenty of information being circulated out there for the entire industry. Sorry.
You're right. And for those that are just starting out to watch this, we'll have some questions at the end. So hang around at the end. We'll fire some questions at Stuart. See if you can answer them.
My screen, I'm not able to click through now. It worked in the practice, but
Right now, Stuart.
nope. Oh, here we go. All right, we're away. So look, I'm not going to talk a lot about the history of how we got here, but it was a 10-year campaign, and many of the people on this call were involved in hosting MPs in workshops, and that really was the reason, I think, why we ended up with the law that we did, is because of there was a real grassroots industry campaign to bring this to the attention of all of our parliamentarians, and as a result, just over 12 months ago, the mandatory data sharing law went through Australia's federal parliament. It's groundbreaking law in a whole lot of respects. This is the first time federal government has ever put in an industry-specific law to govern competition. It's also the first right to repair law in Australia, and there's a whole lot of other sectors that are looking to this, things like agricultural machinery, trucks, heavy vehicles, even iPhones and so on, that are really going to piggyback off this law. And this law is significant internationally, because whilst there is data sharing schemes and some laws and other regulations in different markets in Europe and in the US, this is the only, or we're now the only country with a national legislation and framework like this. So very, very significant. And there's basically big penalties for car companies for non-compliance, up to $10 million per car company per breach. So a big stick to make sure that the car companies do the right thing. And of course, it commences this morning formally. The picture there is of Michael Sukkar, who was the former Assistant Treasurer. He obviously steered the legislation through Parliament. We are getting a lot of questions about what happens now, because obviously the government changed it a couple of months ago. I've got to say there's really good news there. The new minister is a gentleman called Andrew Lee. He's probably done about 30 workshop visits personally. He was the guy that basically got the ALP to adopt this as a formal policy, your car, your choice. And he's now the minister responsible, and that's great news. And in fact, I was at a workshop in Canberra yesterday with the minister, and he's all over this scheme, really excited about it. And as you'll see, that's good news for us, because he has a fair bit of power in being able to tweak the scheme as it goes, to make sure that we can adapt to changes in the market and changes in vehicle technology. So I'll cut to the chase in terms of how the scheme works. So as of this morning, we have a new industry body called the Australian Automotive Service and Repair Authority. We have a website, which is ASSRA.com.au, and you can basically go on and register and start to use the scheme. So that's really, really exciting news for the industry. So what is ASSRA and what does it do? I think the first thing to say is ASSRA is a not-for-profit industry-driven body. It has official status under the legislation. It has some specific roles under that legislation. In terms of the composition of ASSRA, it's actually made up of all the industry bodies that basically represent the different segments of our industry. So it has 2 directors from the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries, which is representing the car companies. It has 2 directors from the Australian Automotive Dealers Association, representing the franchise new car dealers. It has 2 from the MTAA and 2 from us, including myself as a director. And so we're jointly running this new organisation. I've got to say, we still don't have any staff. Sorry, my dog's decided to have a chat to me. We still don't have any staff. We're trying to basically build an organisation from the ground up, so that's why it's taking a little while. We've really only been operating for 3 months, and that's why it's taking a while to get things like communication and other information out. But ASSRA will be hitting its straps from this point on, and it will have its own staff. We're actually doing interviews for our first staff member next week, and so on. And ASSRA has 2 key roles. One is to basically assist independent repairers from all around the country to access information. It's essentially a one-stop shop for access to all the different vehicle manufacturers' information, and it also provides a support desk and a whole lot of services. But it's also in place to help the car industry comply with their obligations under the law. So we've created an infrastructure that makes it quite easy and cost effective for the car companies to integrate. You'll see there on the slide, there's also the National Automotive Service Task Force. That's pretty significant because ASSRA is essentially modelled on NASTF, and NASTF is the organisation in the US that does a similar role for the industry over there. In fact, what we've done is we've actually gone and licensed NASTF's secure data release model and their platform, and we've adopted it in Australia. And Donnie Seffer, the NASTF executive director at the moment, is an acting executive officer for ASSRA, and we're working very collaboratively. So the system that we're launching in Australia is tried and tested and proven in the US. So how does ASSRA work? Essentially, there's some requirements. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of the law, but there's some requirements around accessing information. The majority of information is going to be available to anyone that's in the business of vehicle service repair or modification. So this isn't a scheme for do-it-yourself or backyarders. You have to be a technician involved in a business that's in vehicle repair and maintenance, and you'll get the absolutely overwhelming majority of information just by proving that. There are a couple of hurdles, but they're in there for a specific purpose. This scheme is designed to make as much information available, in fact, all information available. And the test of this is if a dealer gets the information, then the independents should be able to get it on fair and reasonable terms in the same format and time frame. So if dealers get information immediately, then independent repairers should be able to get it immediately. The two kind of hurdles, if you like, or areas there are around safety. This is not vehicle safety, this is technician safety, and it's around EV hybrid and any sort of high voltage vehicles. If you're accessing information on those vehicles, you have to have done a basic training course, about 10 hours. And that's really around just safely depowering and being able to work on the vehicle safely and then being able to reinitialize it. The other hurdle is around security. So if you're doing coding on vehicle entry and immobilizer modules and working with those modules, you will have had to have done or undertaken a police check, a national police check. It needs to be updated every 2 years, and that's just to make sure that the people that are accessing it haven't stolen cars and so on. And we need to set this up to make sure that we keep the bad guys out, and because we are working with codes and other information. And if it gets in the wrong hands, then everyone's in trouble. So I will say though, if you're doing reflashing of software, if you're doing coding on parts that aren't linked to security module, you don't need to be a vehicle security professional. You can do that under the general information. And essentially what ASSRA will do all the vetting, do it once, and then each of the different brands will essentially know what level of access that technician is entitled to. So just on the brands, I'm really pleased to announce that we have something like 37 brands participating in the ASSRA scheme, and they represent, in terms of new vehicle sales in the market, about 90% of sales. So that's not an exhaustive list. That screenshot was taken a few weeks ago. If you go onto ASSRA.com.au and go onto the automaker links tab, you'll see all the participating brands. So essentially, once you get that level of accreditation with ASSRA, that one-off thing, then basically you'll be able to go in and access all the data sharing sites from all the participating brands. You just key in your ASSRA username and password, and they'll automatically know that you're a vehicle security professional, you've done your EV training and so on. So you won't have to resubmit all of that. What about the non-participating brands, you might say? Like everything in this life, the government don't want to get involved in forcing anyone to do anything other than the car companies need to comply with their legal obligations now. So there are some car company brands that have elected not to go through the ASSRA system. But having said that, they don't get a leave pass on this. They still need to comply with their legal obligations. They still need to provide ASSRA with all their pricing offers, and they still need to provide ASSRA with a contact point if there's any issues around accessing information and so on. So really the only difference there is that a non-participating brand, and I'm happy to name one, BMW decided to do their own thing. If you want to access information from BMW, you would go to them directly. They will do the vetting to make sure that you're employed by a repairer. If you want to do EV information and so on, they'll do that themselves, but you'll only have to ever do that once with them, and then they'll essentially know you as a customer of them. So, and they're required to do everything else the other car manufacturers are under the law. They've just decided to do it directly. So as I said, there's those three levels of access, and I'm happy to be able to announce the pricing structure now. So that base level of where you're basically just validated as someone working for a business in the repair industry. That's $90 a year annually. That's an annual subscription. We're encouraging workshops to register the majority of their technicians. The issue, look, there's nothing stopping a workshop just registering one registration and then using that. But if that log-on credentials is passed around to different people and something happens, you're going to be the person responsible for whatever is done on your login. So $90 a year. It's individual based, but it'll be linked to a business. The safety certificate, the training that I talked about, there's a $50 one-off processing fee essentially to validate that certificate and load it on the system. So that's not an annual fee, that's just a once-off. And you basically have that for life then. With the security professional program, there's a $210 a year fee, which is on top of the 90. So essentially, if you want to be a full VSP with access to everything, you're paying about $300 a year. We will be very, very strict on the security professionals. They have to be individual technicians. You cannot share that log-on credential because you're basically coding keys and other immobiliser parts and programs. So that will be an app-based thing. You'll need to provide the credentials, make sure that you've got the customer's authorization and so on. It'll be geo-tracked so that if someone's trying to do coding in WA when we have them registered in New South Wales, then we'll know that the red flags will go up. And this is all really about making sure that we're protecting the integrity of vehicle security information. There is one hitch to the scheme, and really it's because the work has been required to have been done to get us from 12 months ago when the legislation went through Parliament to get, we've got something like 45 different car brands selling light vehicles in Australia. So trying to get them all mobilised, trying to get ASSRA organised and so on has meant that we're not going to be able to launch everything this morning. And one of the things that we just want to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row is the vehicle security professional scheme, the VSP scheme. We're not quite ready to roll that out to all and sundry. The reason there's two reasons. One is we need to have the infrastructure in place and make sure that we can do it right. And we want to do it in a controlled way initially, so that we can do it in a step process to make sure that it all works. And secondly, and I'll be quite frank, the car companies are playing catch up with scan tools and access and other things. So a number of them aren't quite ready. There's chip shortages and other things going on in the scan tool industry. We need to make sure that aftermarket scan tool companies, like Snap-on and Opus and others, have licensing agreements in place. So it's going to take a little while to roll that out. So there's an interim measure, and this is very much an interim measure. We'll have what's called an assisted immobiliser reprogramming service. So if you're a subscriber of ASSRA and you need, your customer's vehicle needs security programming, you just contact ASSRA, and we'll have basically a group of specialists out there that have the tooling and the training to be able to do that programming. Some of it will be done remotely, depending on the vehicle. Some of it will be someone will come to your workshop and do that programming for you. So the important thing is you can still access programming. but you can't do it yourself yet. Now, we're saying at the moment, July 2023 will be the rollout for the full VSP. I can tell you there's emails going around even the last couple of days that we're looking to actually fast track that. So stay tuned for that. We're trying to roll out that full VSP offering as soon as we can. So what do you get and under what terms? So basically, as I said, the test is going to be the dealerships get the information, and if so, then an independent repairer should be able to get it in the same time frame and so on. Also, this is really important. It's not compulsory to go through ASSRA to get this information. I mean, we'd be scratching our head wondering why you would want to do it, but to go yourself. But for $90 a year, what do you get? Essentially, as I say, you get that one-stop shop where you do your validation once, and then you're known with all those participating car brands from that point on. But a really important thing is that car companies are notoriously hard to deal with. They're big organisations and bureaucracies and so on. And if something goes wrong, if you can't find information or they basically block you from information that you think you should be getting, you're going to have to deal. If you're not with ASSRA, you're going to have to sort that out yourself. But if you're a subscriber to ASSRA, whether it's a participating ASSRA brand or a non-participating brand, ASSRA will go into bat for you. So we'll have high-level contacts at each of every car company in Australia, and we'll be able to make a phone call, send an email, get to the right person, and sort it out. And we've got quite a comprehensive dispute resolution process. The experience from NASTF in the US is 98% of issues that arise are solved by the NASTF help desk directly with the vehicle manufacturer. And because we've got legislation, we've got even more clout. So basically, it's just a matter of emailing or going online and filling in a missing information report, and then ASSRA will go into bat for you. That service offering isn't available if you're not an ASSRA subscriber. We've got to cover our direct costs in supporting. There is also a formal mediation process, which is available to anyone, but that's a very expensive and very time-consuming process. And as I say, we think most of the issues will be sorted out through that ASSRA help desk. I saw this on the socials last night. Fair and reasonable commercial terms. This is going to be an interesting one. There is quite a comprehensive definition in the legislation of what constitutes fair and reasonable, and I'm not going to go through that. But what I can say is that there's a team at the ACCC that are basically doing all of the research to see what the cost of information, similar information is in different markets and so on. We now, as of this morning, have all the car company price offers. So they're offering information access at an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, or annually rate. So we can compare and contrast the different pricing structures. Just because a company's charging a certain amount now doesn't mean that won't all settle down. So it'll be interesting this morning. I'm going to get it on and look at a lot of the car company price offerings ourselves. But look, most of them are pretty reasonable. I think anything from $10 to $15 to $20 an hour up to many of them are $2,000 or $3,000 a year. But some of them will be a bit more, and we'll just see how that pans out.
Stuart, I was just going to say, someone asked where they can find that. You can find that directly on the ASSRA website. It's that page with all the manufacturers' logos. When you click on the logo, it tells you the price. So just for those people that say, "Oh, how do you know how much each manufacturer is?" It's don't click on that logo. It takes you to a page with the prices on it. So it's really easy to find. And even the non-participating brands have their prices on their links as well on the non-participating brand page.
Thanks, Mike. That's really important. So and they have to report into ASSRA if they change their price offerings or any service offerings. They have to report those to ASSRA. So as I said, if things don't work, ASSRA is there to basically set up to support technicians. So there's a missing information report, help desk, and so on. And look, if there's say one particular company that's car company that's a repeat offender on something, or if all the car companies sort of do a similar sort of thing in a coordinated way, then that's what's called systemic issues, and ASSRA has the power to be able to sort of triage them and refer them on to the ACCC enforcement and compliance team. So there's a team of 7 people sitting at the ACCC, and their job is basically just to oversee the compliance and enforcement of this scheme. And as I said, there's access to potential mediation. We don't think there's going to be a huge amount of formal mediation. As I say, we think we can resolve most of the issues. I think one of the beauties of this scheme and why I like the design of it so much is its flexibility. So, we're in a dynamic industry. There's a lot of technology on vehicles that's changing all the time. The structure of the industry and so on is changing. So the beauty of this scheme is its flexibility. So it's the legislation is very principles based. It's very high level. So it basically says all repairers should get all repair and service information on fair and reasonable commercial terms. It's not specific. It doesn't say you have to do this and that and whatever. You just have to comply with your obligations. But it also gives the Minister of the Day, and that's why I said it was really important that we've got a supportive minister in Andrew Lee. He's got power on the recommendations of ASSRA or the ACCC to make changes to the scheme. And the wording of the legislation says if any party is intentionally trying to frustrate the outcomes of the scheme, then the minister can introduce new rules to stop that. So that's a check and balance, and it means that we can adjust the scheme as we go. And ASSRA will have a lot of power in making those recommendations to the Minister of the Day. So one other point on that, we're really good at workarounds as an industry and have been because we've had to be, but now this is all formalised. Really encourage you not to do workarounds. Don't try and go through the US and other things. Go through the front door here. If it's not working, report it to ASSRA. If we don't know about it, we can't make changes, but we've got that flexibility to make changes. I guess the final slide that I want to talk about, we need to do a little bit of expectation management here. This has been a massive undertaking, and not just from the AAAA perspective. The whole industry's been involved in this, and we've really tried. We've had less than 6 months to pull this together, and so it's not all going to be hunky-dory and everything's working perfectly today. This scheme will evolve, so there's going to be some issues, and there's a few that we kind of see on the horizon. There's a lot of really small volume importers in Australia. Some of them do 5 vehicles, some of them do 100 vehicles, that sort of thing. Some of those don't even know about the scheme yet. They're not members of the FCAI. The ACCC is trying to contact them and so on. So not every vehicle manufacturer will be compliant from day one, but all the volume importers will be. There are some risks if you doing niche stuff that some of those importers might not have caught up, but they will be catching up pretty quickly. Look, ASSRA is trying to gear up really quickly and on the fly, and as I said, we haven't even got any staff yet. So myself and all the other industry association executives are trying to do this in our spare time at the moment. So bear with us. We are getting onto the staffing, but things might take a little longer than we would like at the moment. But as I say, we're trying to do our best to make all this happening. This is groundbreaking law. This has never been done anywhere in the world, and particularly the unique structure that we've got. So things are going to take a little while to bed down. Things like pricing, things like access to aftermarket scan tool information, or being able to do the programming through your tools, that sort of thing. So again, just bear with us. We are working with it. We'll do it as quickly as we can. ASSRA is a sustainable entity. ASSRA is not a profit-making organisation. It hasn't been formed to make money. It's been formed to serve the industry and facilitate this. ASSRA's had to incur, well, we will incur nearly $750,000 in development costs. We only got $250,000 of that covered by the government. So we've had to come up with the rest of that money. Car industry are contributing. They've contributed over $400,000 this year, and will continue to do that year in, year out. The AAAA and the MTAA have actually made a contribution, seed funding, to match the government contribution. And we're trying to price it as cheaply as possible, so that we encourage access and usage of the scheme. But we still have some concerns, and in fact, we'll be making those known to the new minister. We think this is underfunded from a government perspective, but this is not about trying to flip the ticket or rip off, or just add another business cost. I mean, there is significant cost in delivering this scheme and employing staff, and we're just trying to cover those. And the other thing, which I alluded to, I'm talking from the AAAA today, but ASSRA is gearing up its communication. We'll be doing videos and other information. There's press releases going out and so on. But just bear with us. ASSRA will be its own entity and will have its own team and so on, but that's going to take a few months to bed in. So that's all from me, and I'm happy to take some questions from you guys.
Yeah, well, I think you've answered the question there. I mean, I think some of the social media commentary has been that we've just vertically integrated another association into the mix, and somehow it's like they're all paid directors, and it's this money-making entity that's just that we don't really need, and it's not that in any way, shape, or form. It needs to be there as part of the legislation. You're not getting paid when you make a reference. I want to make it really clear when Stuart make a reference going he's talking ASSRA, because he's on the board of that ASSRA committee, and that's when you go, and those board members are not getting paid to do that job.
No one's getting. The staff will get paid once we employ them, but we're all volunteering our time, and essentially we're having to all wear two hats, basically try and run the AAA, and in my case, ASSRA as well. And look, I've got to say that I've got to take my hat off to all the ASSRA directors. The guy Rob Langridge from FCAI has done a mountain of work trying to corral 40 different brands and get all those links up and so on. Richard Dudley and John Curry from the Motor Traders Association doing a huge amount of work behind the scenes, and Brian and James from the Dealer Association. So it really is a team effort, and we're not getting paid. We're doing it in our spare time that we don't have. And look, we're doing our best. This really is a short time frame to be able to deliver change of this significance. So I think it's remarkable that we're where we are today, and this will evolve. It'll settle down. It'll get more comprehensive and more user friendly as we go. But it's taken us 12 years to get here. I know, and people are a little bit impatient. They want everything to be perfect from day one. But it will take a little bit of time to settle down.
Yeah, well, that was pretty good. It was the first time I've seen that presentation, and I think the biggest takeaway for me joining ASSRA is when things go wrong, I guess you've got someone to go to rather than trying to fight the dealers or manufacturers. It's sort of, this is not working. Who do you speak to? And guarantee if you just call the dealership, you're probably not going to know who to speak to either. At least that way we've got a connection straight to resolve any disputes, which is great.
Yeah, that's right. I kind of see ASSRA taking the role of a little bit like an ombudsman. If you've got something wrong, with your mobile phone provider or whatever, trying to deal with Telstra and and so on. They just give you the runaround and so on. But if you bring the telecommunications ombudsman, they give you a number into a specific department within Telstra, and the issue gets resolved like that.
Happens quick.
Yeah. And that's what ASSRA will do, because of its powers and because it will have a senior level contact at each of the car companies, regardless of whether they're participating or not.
Excellent.
They should be able to resolve issues very, very quickly. And a lot of the time, it's the information might be available. You just didn't know you were in the wrong spot, or it's not in a logical area. One of the challenges we have is the car industry is multinational. So, the Japanese do things very differently to the Germans, to the Americans, to the Koreans, and so on. So they've all got different systems and different ways of doing things. And ASSRA over that time period will develop that expertise in who does things different ways and so on, and they'll get the same sort of calls. So they'll be able to resolve a lot of those. So I think that help desk is I think the biggest selling point of ASSRA. But the other one is just the fact that you can go in once, put all your credentials in, and use those with over 35 brands. So
obviously people can. They don't have to use ASSRA. They can log in. I didn't realise that was a possibility. You can use
that's right.
Each manufacturer, but you're going to have to prove who you are every time you log in, and you're going to have to probably pay a fee, and it might be more than what ASSRA's fee is.
Yeah, that's right. The government were very, very clear that they didn't want to create a monopoly here. They didn't want to say everyone's got to go through, all the car companies and all the repairers have to go through ASSRA, because that's really a monopoly situation, and that's where you could get a situation where ASSRA then starts to price whatever they like, because no one else competes with them. So ASSRA is competing essentially from a car company perspective and a repairer perspective. It's competing with people doing it directly. So we think some of these car brands will get jack of trying to validate every repairer and do all the systems themselves. They might come back into the ASSRA fold. Similarly, it's a free world. If you want to go brand by brand and apply for subscription. It'll be very time consuming and a lot more expensive, because each of the brands are going to want to cover their administration costs and processing that your registration. So I don't understand why a repairer wouldn't go through Azure, but then again, we've tried to design a system to incentivize that. But it's a free world. If you don't want to use Azure, then you're free to go brand by brand.
Foster, are there any questions on Facebook?
Yeah, that's what I'm just filtering through. We have answered a few of them. A couple of people asking, do we need to go through ASSRA? We've just answered all that. Somebody's asked, so Lee's asking, on the ASSRA register page, it does ask for our business website. Is it a compulsory field? What if we don't have a website? I think someone below that's answered that. He entered and he doesn't have a website, so I think
that's fine. We're just trying to get as much information as we can, because we need to just do a check to make sure that it's a valid business and so on. To be honest, we're going to be linking to ABNs. That's going to be the biggest one. So if you're putting an ABN in there, and we need to make sure that you're actually working for that business, but if you put an ABN there, that's got a link to a workshop. But no, you don't need a website. We're not going to knock people out just because they haven't got a website.
And Gil's just made a bit of a comment there as well that Chad are actually suggesting that independents need to go through ASSRA. Well, don't need to, but need to go through ASSRA. So I think the independents are definitely, the manufacturers are probably leaning on ASSRA as well to make their life a bit easier.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. A number of the OEMs are going to use the ASSRA platform to do their transfer of coding to their dealerships, because they have very manual systems. So this is automating it for them. And a number of the brands will be registering all their dealer technicians through ASSRA as well. So we've got the Dealer Association on the ASSRA board for a reason. This is a whole industry thing. And look, over time, dealerships will be able to do multi-brand repairs if they want to, using subscription through Azure. This is all about creating a level playing field in a competitive market. I think it's exciting.
Who knows? One day we might actually all be working together. How great's that? Would have thought.
Yeah. Oh, I reckon that. It's interesting. I think dealership land is changing a bit. Some of the car companies are going to subscription models, direct models. Some of the new players, the BYDs and so on. Some of the brands are going to agency arrangements rather than franchise. So the dealership situation is changing, and they're looking for opportunities. Some of the EZRAs and others are launching independent repair chains and so on, selling or used car chains and so on. So the industry is changing, and I think this just sets that platform, because if we didn't have this legislated access, basically it would have been death by 1,000 cuts for our industry. If you can't do programming and flashing and that sort of thing on a vehicle, you're pretty well going to get locked out of vehicles from model year 2016 onwards, and then you're just looking at the legacy car park, and as that as vehicles get retired, it's a smaller and smaller pie. So what this does is just set the benchmark so that we can compete with on our merits going forward, and to do that, you're going to have to invest in training and in tools, and you're probably not going to be able to do everything on every brand, despite the fact that you've got access, just because there's such a myriad of different brands and different technologies and different ways of doing things. But what it does do is give everyone as business owners choices on what they get into, what they don't, what they farm out, and so on. So the power is with us now, rather than it being with the car company dictating what we can and can't do.
Look at future-proofs the industry.
Yeah.
The independent industry, future-proofs my business. It means that we can carry on into the future. And it's without this legislation, right? There's no longevity in the trade at all.
It's just secured our future, mate.
And I think it's really important to go back to realise that the manufacturers have got a vested interest in pushing it towards ASSRA, because they've paid money to ASSRA. So don't, look, those that think they want to go outside of ASSRA, they've contributed their part of that $400,000 that they've contributed to help set this up. They're going to want you to go, like you said, Toyota's going to want to push you through that, and like they're going to use their techs to go through that, because it automates it, it makes it much easier.
Yeah.
If anyone that's used any OE level software, none of their stuff is flash and as easy to use as that one and G-scan scan tools and those sorts of things.
Yeah. And look, I don't think $90 is a huge price to pay per annum. And look, it's not just $90. You don't get access to all the information from all the brands just for $90. You are going to have to pay per brand if you're going on and subscribing. But that's a cost of doing business which will need to be passed on to your customer. Yeah.
You buy it for that day or for that week or for that time that you're doing that work on the car. And that's what you can have, and that's what the dealers would do. And they do exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Well, they might buy it annually, but they still have to pass that cost on. So,
that's right. And look, if you're a specialist in 3 or 4 brands or 2 brands or whatever, it's probably going to be worth you getting the annual subscription. But one of the things that we're really pushing home, and this is will take a little bit of time to bed in, is that the all makes all model repairer business model is so important for Australia. So we need to maintain that. And to do that, we need data aggregators to be able to license with all the vehicle manufacturers to be able to provide that as a one-stop shop. And similarly, we need repairers to be able to use their aftermarket scan tools across a range of different brands to be able to do programming and reflashing and clear codes and that sort of thing, and get through gateways and so on. So that's the body of work that we're now doing, and I'm impressed on the minister yesterday, the importance of that, and he gets it. So we had someone from Snap-on at the launch demonstrating the scan tool and how it works and where the issues are at the moment in terms of you get to a certain point and you can't complete the repair task. So we're working through all that, but it will take a few months to all bed in.
Any more questions, Costa?
Stephen just asked one, which will address that one. It's maybe making a video that shows you how to log in and stuff, just to make it a bit easier for those that aren't as but I think we can do that. That's fine. We'll organise over the next week or two to when we're logging in or when we're creating a new account, and we'll maybe share it live and just show you where things are. Yeah,
that's right. And ASSRA, I'll put that on the ASSRA agenda. We'll probably get Donny Seffer, the NASTA CEO, to do a video to demonstrate the process and
excellent.
So yeah.
I think we answered a few more questions. We've answered them all, so I think we are all good on that front. Yeah, that was great. Excellent.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, guys, and thanks everyone for joining online. As I said, we'll be putting out a whole lot of information and instructions on how to register and how to use the system and how to really leverage it. And as I say, a lot of that will come from ASSRA now. Now it is an entity and it's up and running. So we'll be pushing that out.
And what we'll do in the meantime, because obviously this is a private group just for automotive professionals, and obviously not everyone has access to the group for, maybe they don't even know about the group. But what we'll do is we'll make sure it is recorded. We'll bundle this up. We'll make it shareable. We'll put it onto YouTube. We've got a few other pages. We'll share it on. So if you guys think there is other socials or people that might benefit from watching this video, please share it with them. But we'll make sure that it's accessible for everybody to see.
Thanks, Stuart.
That's it.
Excellent.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Enjoy
your champagne.
Accessing information.
Enjoy your champagne today. Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, I'm just about to have one now. So.
Yeah, excellent. Well done. All right, see you guys.
Right, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Don't forget to join our private Facebook page if you are an automotive technician, and also subscribe to our YouTube and our podcast channel. They are all called The Garage Network. Thanks, guys, and see you next time.